Hey, how are you? I'm Cathryn Nolan, Cath. I have been a lawyer for more than 30 years, and I have been teaching in law schools and MBA programs since about 2012. And I've long been aware of the gap, I guess, between what it is that law schools can deliver and what it is that law students are looking for and need, and what it is that the profession is expecting and requiring of its graduates, and where those gaps are. And so with my business, Procademy is essentially a made-up word. I self-style myself as a pracademic, as somebody who is way more focused on the practical and pragmatic, what we do with the information than I am with the research. But the academic material is invaluable, and nothing I do is not grounded in research in some way. But anyway, enough about that. Procademy is bringing this first program to the world. Is the LawStudent.solutions offering, which is a subscription membership for law students designed to help them be the best that they can possibly be. There's only one program up and running at the moment. That's the mental fitness program that I'm about to talk to you about, so you can understand a little bit more about what that is. But over the next few months, we will be building a range of both practical and academic resources specifically for Australian law students. So there will be a group of resources, tips, tricks, hacks, explainers, resources for studying law, for writing like a lawyer, for getting yourself through the reading and making sense of it, for writing law assignments and for tackling law exams. So a range of academic type tools and tips, together with a group of pragmatic and practical tools for getting yourself organised, and staying motivated. And one of the most important elements of that idea is the mental fitness program, which is the first thing that we're offering. So what is mental fitness? Ultimately, I think of mental fitness as being your capacity to respond to the challenges that life and law school throws at you with a positive as opposed to a negative mindset. Mental fitness is grounded in the ideas behind positive psychology. For a really long time in the world of psychology, the data looked at what's wrong with you. Why is it that you are unhappy? We explored dysfunction as opposed to function. And a lot of people look to, well, what do I need to do to succeed and be happy? Positive psychology plopped this upside down, and research demonstrates that we don't need to succeed to be happy. We need to be happy in order to succeed. And by defining happiness as fulfillment, challenge, comfort, calm, ability to stay calm under pressure, ability to regulate our own emotional responses. If we look at happiness in the bigger picture, then we can see how positive approaches to the world and having a fit and healthy mind can help us in all sorts of ways. So this is not a mental health program, it's a mental fitness program. It's not therapy and will not pretend to be therapy, and while it may be suitable for people who are suffering mental health conditions in a number of ways, it will not replace therapy or proper treatment. This is a program designed for positive, healthy, focused, brilliant law students like yourself who want to feel and be the best that they can be during their law degree. And there's plenty of research that shows that being mentally fit can have a significantly positive impact on your ability to perform, your peace of mind and your wellness, and the relationships that you have with other people. So we've partnered with Positive Intelligence, a group led by Shazad Sharman out of Stanford in the US, to be able to bring you a full fully fledged coaching program in positive intelligence. Now, this program was initially developed for executives, and many hundreds of thousands of participants, including CEOs, high-functioning executives, elite and not so elite athletes, a range of different people have been through this program. And when I discovered it and went through the training myself, I could see immediately the benefit that a program like this will have for people like you, law students who want to be the best that you can be. And as you can see by the little diagram here, it really sits on this understanding of the world. It basically says if we define achievement to be either the way we perform at law school, the way we perform in our chosen sport, or whatever our chosen arena is, our success in that arena, and our happiness in that general sense of achievement, fulfillment, well-being. Achievement is effectively a multiplier of our potential. So your IQ, the skills you already have, the knowledge you already have, your experience, your network, your emotional intelligence. It's your potential multiplied by your positivity. Now, the website, you'll be able to see a link below, somewhere down there, to the Positive Intelligence website, where you can read a lot more about the program and the bits behind it. I would suggest that you go and do two things. That you do their free Positive Intelligence, or PQ, their Positivity Quotient test, and that you also do the Saboteur test, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So what do I like about this project? It's absolutely founded in research. So it sits within the framework of values that we at Procademy really, really value. So as I mentioned before, it starts with positive psychology, that idea that you need to be happy in order to succeed, and the research that supports that. The research involves significant findings from the world of neuroscience, which is essentially the science of looking at what happens in the brain and why it happens. And the research that's been done on this program demonstrates that 6 to 8 weeks of actually practicing the techniques that you'll learn in this program have demonstrated under MRI conditions real changes in the way that the physical brain responds. Also CBT, this is actually a cognitive behavior therapy, a therapeutic approach, which is really all about recognizing and shifting, recognizing our thoughts, the way that we interpret them, and then shifting our responses to those thoughts and interpretations. And then ultimately, the research that comes from performance science, so achievement for CEOs and athletes. So it draws on, but in many, many important ways, simplifies emotional intelligence and visualization research. And then there's some synthesis of these different areas of the science, together with the additional research that's been done at Stanford. So what is that research? For those of you who like to know that I'm not just pulling this out from the Paduta Industry Institute, pulled it directly out of my, let's leave it there. So the research includes feedback, results, measurements from hundreds of CEOs and executive teams, Stanford students, world-class athletes, more than 500,000 participants across 50 countries. Again, when I first looked at this, I thought, oh, very American. Maybe it's not going to be relevant to me as an Australian and an Australian lawyer. Absolutely, this is not the case. In fact, the book that summarizes most of this research and contains a lot of the information, which will be available to any of the participants in the program for no extra charge, has been translated into 20 languages. So it does have some really broad global impact. And effectively what that is really showing, that impact shows in different areas of the brain. So as I mentioned, the program's really been delivered, or developed and delivered in this first phase of its life to executives. So the results I have relate to executive output. But these are really relevant to Australian law students in a whole heap of ways. First and foremost, if you get nothing else out of it than an improvement in your focus and your concentration, you will be thanking me for doing this. But 31% of teams who do this together report better results, and industry is absolutely crying out for lawyers who can collaborate and work in teams. 3 times more creative. Industry is looking for initiative. The research that I've done that asks the straightforward question, what do you wish that graduates were better at? Number 1 answer, initiative. And of course, legal skills are effectively problem-solving skills. So creativity is all about problem solving. So the positive intelligence guys talk about taking all of that research and bringing it together using what they call factor analysis. Or factor analysis, what is factor analysis? It's ultimately about discovering the root cause and radically simplifying. Now, one of the things that I really like about this program is it's not difficult to remember. There are not 55 steps that you need to pull out. If you do an emotional intelligence program, which many of you have or will do, you'll see there are like 25 or so different competencies that you need to remember and think about in a particular order. So what I like about this is this idea that you can dig into the root cause and radically simplify the approach. As you can see on the screen here, when we think about the world, when we see what we see, there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands different colors, different shades and nuances of color that we see every day. But we can actually pull that down to its most basic, to the 3 primary colors. You don't need to understand or remember every color of the rainbow with this approach, that you can bring it down to the most common factors and work from there. So basically, the positive intelligence guys use this metaphor, the metaphor of the saboteurs and the sage. It really is just a metaphor, and it's one that you may already be familiar with in different ways. We're going to use this language of the sage and the saboteur, but you could use, if you say you're a Star Wars fan, the language from Star Wars. The Force is this combination of good and evil. Now, it's not, that makes it sound religious, which is ridiculous. Light and dark. Sorry, I just realised I said religion was ridiculous. I don't mean that. But this is not a religious or a spiritual experience that you're going to be having here. It's about dealing with the complexity and the colours within yourself. So think about it perhaps as the old cartoon, devil on one shoulder, angel on the other, both of which are getting into your brain and trying to steer you at any given time. So that archetype, that journey, the war within yourself, it comes up all the time. So factor analysis done through this research, this synthesis of all of that research I was talking about earlier, pulls down this idea of, there aren't hundreds of thousands of ways that we self-sabotage. There are basically 10. And so it breaks down this idea of 10 saboteurs, and I'm not going to work through each of them right now. I will explain a little bit more in a minute. But it then juxtaposes them against this idea of 5 key powers that you're going to build as you improve your mental fitness. So we're calling these the sage powers, the powers that come from your innate wisdom, the things that you can do to grow your own abilities in order to be the best person that you are. And so there are 5 really simple techniques. They will take some practice to master, but they are simple at the end of the day. And you can start using these immediately to improve your focus, to reduce procrastination, to reduce your worry or anxiety, to silence that inner critic, and provide for effective, efficient, meaningful study without spending hours and hours and hours effectively getting nowhere. This is a metaphor. It's a metaphor that in many ways you're going to be quite familiar with. Think about it like the cartoons where you've got a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other, both of which are competing with each other to get in your head and make you do something, the light, the dark. Perhaps you're a Star Wars fan. I am. And you can think about this in terms of Star Wars. The Jedi understands that the Force has both light and dark elements. Ultimately, the pursuit of the Jedi, the goal of the Jedi is to achieve that Jedi Master status where she or he can be incredibly calm under pressure and be acutely aware of everything else that's going on around them and act immediately and decisively. Ultimately, that's what we as law students are trying to do, is to get through the noise, focus effectively on what really matters, and make those choices in the moment. So the research that Positive Intelligence that Shazad Charmaine has done demonstrates that there aren't hundreds of ways that we self-sabotage. And in fact, he breaks it down to 10 saboteurs. So I won't talk about each of those at the moment. I will talk about them all in more detail over time and in a more general sense in a minute. But it's important to understand that actually, it's so much simpler if you can break it down into these 10. One that all of us share, or almost all of us, the judge, and then usually most people have 2 or 3 top saboteurs. Now, then again, I'm a lawyer. I excelled in this test. When I first did the test, I had a little bit of practically every single one of them, and many of them quite strong, because a lot of the things that make us strong, make us good, can also, with overuse, be negatives for us as well. But more on that in a little while. Also, we don't need to have 25 different techniques that we can draw on. Here we're going to look at 5 sage powers. So we talk about the saboteurs and the sage. So sage is effectively, it's our own wisdom. It's what comes from within us. These 5 key powers are strengths that you already have that you will be able to build. Now, they're really simple. But simple doesn't mean that they're easy. They will take some time to master and build. But right from the very beginning, most people find that they will immediately begin to improve focus, reduce procrastination, reduce anxiety or worry, and ultimately all of those things will lead to effective study, and ultimately achievement in your law degree. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to be working on these 3 core mental muscles to maintain and achieve mental fitness. This isn't therapy. You are not broken. This is just about developing mental fitness to weaken or intercept the saboteurs, so those internal thoughts and voices that prevent you from being your best self, to grow your sage muscle, your wisdom, your ability to make the choices that are best for you, and your long-term sustainable happiness. And then ultimately also your self-command. In other words, we'll be practicing and growing the strength to recognize when our saboteurs are getting in the way, and we will be taking command of our own thoughts. I mean, it's kind of a bit controversial, and I can see why this might be annoying to you, but I am actually going to contend that most of us are not in command of our own thoughts. If we were in command of our own thoughts, we wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night worrying about things, and then worrying about the fact that we're worrying and not getting enough sleep. I know we all do it. I've done it. I still occasionally do it from time to time. One of the things that is prevalent amongst law students and lawyers is that attention to detail, that constant obsessing over whether everything has actually been caught. Now, sometimes the things that make us strong are also our absolute weaknesses. And overuse of the thing that has made us strong, that attention to detail, for example, could in fact lead to that OCD tendency in another context. So in order to build up the muscles to intercept and defend against saboteurs, it probably makes sense to have a quick view as to what a saboteur is and what I mean by that. So the judge is the most common saboteur. You've probably heard other people refer to that idea of the inner critic, and the judge is very similar to the inner critic, but so much more. Almost everyone has a judge. If you don't have a judge, chances are you've got bigger problems than not feeling uncomfortable during law school. If you don't have any judge at all, chances are you're a psychopath and you need bigger help than what I can give you. So there's a version that everybody has, as I said before, the inner critic. But as I also said, the judge is a much more complex concept. The judge doesn't just criticize us. It criticizes and judges others as well. It criticizes and judges circumstances. This is the voice in our head that says, I'll be happy when. I'll be successful when. And then as soon as we are close or even there, it's the one that resets that bar. The way that the judge actually helps us survive is by judging ourselves, but then being equally harsh or almost as harsh on others as well, which impacts relationships and the way that we live. Now, the enemy we don't know about is significantly more dangerous. But the thing about the judge too is the judge does not work alone. The judge works with these 9 accomplice saboteurs. Now, each of them has different impacts. I, as a lawyer, when I first did this, I came up very high on hyperachiever and controller. I actually have a reasonable amount of height in the restless, and I also can be a bit of a stickler. Just the language of the names probably gives you some sense of what each of these is. But look, I won't spend the time now. We'll spend a lot of time on them in the program, but there is a free online test that you can do on the Positive Intelligence website that will help you see which accomplices are strongest for you, and that will help us then to focus on the ways that you build your saboteur interceptor to work the way that you need it to work. During the 6-week program, we will focus on the judge and your top 2 saboteur accomplices. So the app will actually run slightly differently for everybody, and because everybody is different. So in the program, you'll learn how to recognize the saboteur when it comes up and be in a position to intercept it better. So if you've enrolled in the Mental Fitness for Law Students program, then what I'd like you to do is when you do that test is use the same email address so the results can be linked into the app and we can make sure that everything works the right way. You will, whether you sign up to Positive Intelligence or not, you will receive a few follow-up emails from Positive Intelligence. They won't spam you, and unless you've signed up to both of us, I won't know that you've done it, and also they won't know that you're associated with me. So if you are keen on the program, do come back to me because I'm able to offer it to law students at close to 10% of the price that you would otherwise be paying through them, which is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. So basically, the saboteurs, they're not all bad in a way. Well, they are bad, but often they're really, really linked to the strengths that we have. But we call them saboteurs as opposed to strengths in this context because they're motivating us through negative emotion. Things like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, and insecurity, as opposed to the sage, which motivates us through positive emotion. So when we draw on our strengths, very closely related to the saboteurs, but when we draw on our strengths, we can use our empathy, our curiosity, our creativity, our passion, and our purpose to navigate life. So people often say that their saboteurs are what gets them where they've gotten. And I can see that. I know myself, my attention to detail or my hyperachiever elements of my life have been one of the things that have got me as far as I've gotten. But success and happiness are not necessarily the same thing. When I have been driven by a fear of failure, the success has felt quite different from when I've been motivated by opportunity, passion, curiosity, intellectual rigor. And that subtle but important shift means that I can succeed because I'm happy, as opposed to constantly chasing happiness with this kind of warped understanding that it'll come when I'm successful. So our sage is all about generating the highest success and sustained happiness. So when you go into the program, you'll see that Shazad talks a little bit about this question of whether or not pain is good for us. You're law students. You've studied hard. You've probably got this no pain, no gain mentality, and it has got you in a large part to where you are. But is pain really good for you? Yes, for a second or two as an alert signal that something needs to change, hence this idea of the image of the hot stove. If we put our hand on a hot stove, that pain is there to tell us that the stove is hot, and we can immediately move away, do something different. Staying in negative emotion hurts our ability to see clearly and to respond with empathy, curiosity, creativity, or that laser-focused attention that you particularly need as law students. Negative emotions are connected with these saboteurs as opposed to that control and sage power that allows us to recognize the pain or discomfort for what it is and immediately take laser-focused action. So that's what the Saboteur Interceptor is all about. The next two muscles are, well, the core areas of mental fitness we're going to work on are sage and self-command. So I'll be a little bit quicker now, I hope. So the sage lives in the region of our brain associated with positive emotions, peace and calm, focus, creativity, etc. So we're using this right brain, left brain analogy. So it's not from a scientific point of view perfect. We know that regions of our brains do different things, but it's not quite as clear as the left brain does this and the right brain only does that. But we do know that we can activate, using neuroplasticity, that we can activate certain areas of our brain and make them stronger. And so by activating and using the parts of our brain that deal with positive emotion, with clear-headed focus, with our peace and calm, we can grow those areas of the brain. And we're going to do that using the sage perspective. And the sage perspective is as simple as understanding and living by the principle every outcome, every circumstance can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. So let me illustrate this with a story. Those of you who know me personally will know that I am a great believer in stories. This apparently is an ancient Chinese proverb or story, legend about a sage old farmer. He lived in a village and he had this fabulous stallion. He was very proud of the stallion that he took to the village fair where it won first prize. Neighbours were overjoyed with his good fortune to have this prize stallion, and they came to visit him and they congratulated him and they brought the booze and the cheese and crackers or whatever the equivalent was, and congratulated him and wanted to party. And the sage old farmer says, who knows if it's good or it's bad? They think, okay, he's losing it a bit. A couple of days later, news has gone all through the province about this wonderful stallion. Some thieves hear about it. The thieves go and steal this prize-winning stallion. The neighbours are so distressed. They come to the farmer, wringing their hands, really trying to see how they can help. How terrible this is that you've lost your prize stallion, that it's been stolen out from under you. Sage old farmer looks at them and says, who knows if this is good or it's bad? They renew their thoughts that he must be quite silly at this stage getting on. But then what do you know? Our plucky stallion escapes from the thieves, Brumby-like, gallops across the province. Along the way, picks up a whole herd of wild mares, beautiful and strong, and brings them back to the farmer. The farmer now has this whole brood of mares along with his prize-winning stallion. Neighbours are overjoyed. This is such good luck. They come once again to celebrate with the farmer, and once again the farmer says, who knows whether this is good or it's bad? So a couple of weeks later, there's lots of things happening in this kind of village. The farmer's only adult son is trying to break one of the mares, falls off, breaks his leg. Once again, the neighbours are so upset for the farmer. His healthy and only son is now crippled, unable to work. This is such bad news. And the farmer, say it with me, who knows if this is good or if it's bad? Then, just like in the opening scene of Mulan, a couple of weeks later, the emperor decides that we're all going to go to war and sends out his army to collect all the able-bodied young men. But of course, our sage farmer's son no longer an able-bodied young man. Villagers don't even bother showing up anymore. Their sons, of course, have all gone to war at a time when that meant they were probably never coming back at all. But you say it with me. Who knows what is good and what is bad? Which perspective is true? The saboteur will always focus on the bad. The sage will always look for the gift or the opportunity. And ultimately, whichever you believe is the one that comes true. Now, don't get me wrong here. I am not about the woo-woo magic stuff. I am not a person who believes in the secret, manifest and it shall be. And if you do, that's great. But what we believe then needs to follow with what we need to do. So which brings us to the third muscle that we're going to work on, the self-command muscle. Now, self-command is about being able to stop that chatty brain in the middle of the night. As I said before, you're not in charge of your own brain, your own mind. If you were, you wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night thinking about the things that could go wrong. So how do you grab that self-command and do the next, be able to change that thought or that focus? So what you're going to learn with this app and this program is this idea of the PQ rep. Now, PQ just stands for positivity quotient, a bit like EQ is emotional quotient, or IQ is intelligence quotient. It's a measurement of your positivity. You are going to learn a whole heap of techniques that can be done in 2 minutes or less. So these techniques have been shown, when done intensively over a period of time, to reduce activity in those parts of the brain that are linked to these saboteur mindsets and increase activity in the sage areas of the brain. What I really love about this is clearly there are mindfulness techniques. Many of you will already do meditation or other mindfulness techniques regularly, which are great. And I would encourage you to keep doing those or to add these to the pack as well. But one of the problems with mindfulness is it can be very difficult to keep doing over a long period of time, or to be able to do in the moment when we're under attack, when we are triggered or hijacked by a thought or an experience. You cannot, in the middle of an exam, just walk out and commune with nature. You cannot, when a lecturer has called on you to answer a question, just pop out, sit in the beanbag and go zen for 10 minutes. These are techniques that can be done with your eyes open, not always, but you can do it with your eyes open in a room full of people in seconds. Most people who start meditating can't keep doing it. Only 20% or slightly less than 20% will continue. But more than 80% of people who start doing PQ reps, who keep it up over a 6-week period, will continue to do them. So I may well do a little video shortly with some PQ rep experiences in it, but we've been going for quite a while, so I'm just going to keep going and talk to you about this idea of a positivity quotient operating system. This is all about this self-command. So if you're feeling a negative emotion, having this operating system gives you a process, a practice, tried and true way of recognize that there's a negative emotion and stopping. So, for example, if you're overwhelmed by the work that you need to do, or you don't know where to start, or you're doing what I do, a bit of procrastinating or procrastinating or procrastination playing around, recognizing that you are in saboteur mode and identifying the fear or the issue that's sitting behind. So what you will then do is some PQ reps. This is what we call them. So couple of little exercises to really ground yourself, get in the here and now, be present, quiet those saboteurs and activate the sage. You're then going to assume the sage perspective. You're going to identify that every problem can be converted into a gift or an opportunity. Sometimes it might be tempting to say, okay, the fact that I am overwhelmed by the schoolwork means that my house is going to be incredibly tidy, but we're going for a longer term, more sustained solution than that. And then you're going to generate that gift using the sage powers. So your empathy, curiosity, creativity, or calm, clear-headed action. So this operating system becomes part of who you are, has this ongoing, sustainable connection to you. And this is why we're delivering this first, so that participants in our program can build their mental fitness as we also build the tools that we're building to help you more effectively get through the study. Can it really be that simple? Absolutely, it can. You will get better and better at doing this. Positive change is about fitness, not just about insight. You can have the insight, you can know what it is that you need to do, but unless you have the mental fitness, the fortitude, the strength to actually do those things, you will continually fall back into the bad habits. So my job will be to work with you to help you develop those insights and skills specifically required as a law student. And then the app and the PQ program will help you to build those mental muscles. So next question is it possible to shift from saboteur to sage just by doing this? It does require intense practice, at least initially. The focus is going to be really straightforward. You'll get an app. It gamifies the process. It's going to send you reminders. Essentially, you'll start each day with a little reflection and a focus for the day. You will have 3 coach challenges over the course of the day. They'll take you about 2 minutes to do. and you'll get a little reminder on your phone. You'll get extra points for doing them if you do them on time. You will also have on the app some tools that will allow you to actually just practice those PQ moves. They call it the PQ gym at other times when you need them or you've got a bit of time to just develop that mental fitness. And then at the end of the day, you'll be asked to reflect. So all up, that should take you about 15 minutes a day. Not even 15 minutes in a row, 15 minutes over 4 different little exercises over the course of the day. Then on the weekends, you will have access to a video lecture from Shazad Charmaine, which will take about an hour. They're chunked up. You don't have to do them all in one sitting, although lots of people do. And ideally, you'll get access to these on a Saturday. Ideally, you will have completed them by Monday afternoon, because on Monday afternoons, we will have a study pod. Again, that'll be about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how the conversation's going and what you need. Completely optional, but while you're doing this program in particular, highly recommended. This is where you will meet other law students from a range of different universities who are, like you, invested in getting the most that they can out of their law school experience. There will be some themes for those while we're running through the pod, which I will facilitate. I'll help you with the coaching aspects, but we'll also start to develop the broader networks in those discussions for developing the solutions that will be your solutions as members of Law Student Solutions. So just starting to sum up now, why is it that I think law students in particular will benefit from a program like this? Firstly, you have high expectations of yourself. Your judge has got you here to a point. You have high expectations of yourself. You have high expectations of other people. Your judge is right now reminding you that maybe other people around you are smarter than you, or conversely, that they are all idiots, that they don't work as hard, or that they have to work way harder than you in order to survive. There are significant demands on your time as law students, significant demands. Most of you will have a job. Many of you will be working full-time, particularly those who are studying the law degree and the JD. For many of you, it's looking like a career shift. It's a big change in what you're doing. By actually telling the world you're a law student, people are already treating you differently. They have a different set of expectations on you than they did before, and that amps up the anxiety. A law degree is intellectually, physically, and emotionally challenging. And yet, in order to do really well, you need to adopt that Jedi mindset, to be calm under fire, to be able to make great choices really quickly, whether that's in an exam in identifying what the problem is, or writing an assignment identifying when it is that you can draw a line in the sand, that you have done enough. Another thing about doing a law degree is, for many of you, it will require a fundamental shift in the way that you think. Many law students have been really, really good at school. You are really good at school. You had to be good at school to get here. Most of you will have always been in the top 10% of your class. If you weren't, it's because you didn't try. But being good at school, even being good in an undergraduate degree, a normal undergraduate degree, is different from being good at law school. Being good at school is about knowing what it is that the teacher needs and reproducing that information in a particular way. Being good at law school, it's no longer about your memory. It's no longer about what you know. It's about what you do with the information that you have learned. It's about how you synthesize that information and deploy it to answer questions, to apply it in a real world situation. And that can be really hard for you, because it means taking a risk. You haven't taken risks before. You've developed strategies that make you good at school. And that's going to require a fundamental mind shift. I hate the word resilience. Resilience isn't enough. I hate the word resilience because it's a kind of form of victim blaming sometimes. We know that some of the most resilient people are the people who have dealt with horrific things in their lives. And it would be great if we didn't need to be resilient if horrific things didn't happen. What I want you to be able to do is move away from that defensive mode into an offensive mode. I don't mean that law students are offensive, but many people are offended by you. What I mean by that is because you are mentally strong, because you can take command over your own thoughts, because you can look for and action the positive in a situation, that you continue to have a calm, happy, satisfied life, as opposed to be constantly dealing with the battles and putting out fires. And that ultimately is what this is all about for me, is I want to come up with sustainable and long-term solutions that you can continue to draw on, not only in your law degree, but in your career ahead. So what's included in our package? Basically everything that is included in the Positive Intelligence program that you can buy online from Positive Intelligence for a whopping $995 US. So that's around, these days, around 13 to 14,000 Aussie dollars for that 6-week program. Now, our program for this first run anyway will be $197. So I am basically bringing it to you at an extreme discount. And that's because I'm bringing it to you while I am developing other resources for LawStudent Solutions. I'm bringing it to you at that price on the basis that I will be looking to you for insights and priorities with the other more specific skill-based resources that I am building. By the middle of the year, I expect to be in a position where I have enough content that I will be delivering the whole package. And at that point, I'm hoping that I can make some money out of it, to be quite frank. So the prices will be significantly higher. But for you, my lovely beta pre-release friends, if you've made it with me this far, I'm really looking forward to working with you, and I really hope that you take this on board and that you join us, because I know it's going to have a positive impact on your life. You need more information? Take a look at the website, work your way through it, let us know. That's where you can sign up to this program. And there is a ton of information on the positiveintelligence.com website. And of course, you can always email me. The address is on the screen and below. Regardless of the choices you make this semester, I hope it's a great one for you.